Dangling over the edge, one wrong move could be the end, but a guiding hand appears, glowing with hope. He reaches out, and courage meets the unknown, a moment that could change everything. Earlier that night, he had entered the quiet, moonlit forest as an environmental research volunteer, determined to survey the land before it was marked for destruction. Each step along the path led him closer to the cliff where fate awaited. One slip of the foot, and a cry tears through the night, fingers gripping the cliff. He hangs between life and the abyss, safe in her guiding presence. The night's danger faded behind him. He followed her carefully through the forest, the soft glow of her lantern guiding the way. Wildflowers shimmered around them, each step wrapped in quiet magic and wonder. The cottage glowed warmly ahead, surrounded by roses and wildflowers, a quiet sanctuary in the night. He followed her gently through the garden, the lantern light brushing softly against blooming petals. Inside the cottage, warmth replaced the chill of the night. In the soft glow of firelight and lantern, safety finally felt real. She gently poured the tea, and with it, a quiet sense of comfort filled the room. They sat together in silence, but silence could not hold the questions for long. "You came for the land," the old woman said softly. "Yes, how did you know?" he replied. She held his gaze for a quiet moment. "What will you do to save it?" "The local authorities are planning to widen the narrow hill road that runs along this forest," he said. "To make space, they've already marked the trees for cutting, and they plan to blast part of the cliff to level the land for construction vehicles." He drew a slow breath. "I didn't even know about it at first. A friend of mine lives down the cliff. He saw the survey teams marking the road. He called me as soon as he heard they were planning to widen it. I work with a small environmental group. We document places like this, the trees, the wildlife, the cliff structure. If we can prove the damage will be irreversible, the project can be challenged. I may not have power, but I can make sure this forest is not ignored." She smiled faintly, her voice as soft as the night. "I have cared for this place longer than you can imagine, and I still do." He hesitated, looking around the cottage and the forest beyond. "They say this land has no legal owner, that's why it's marked for expansion." Her eyes grew distant. It was never empty. He let her words settle and gently brushed his fingers over the flowers beside him, taking in the quiet glow of the little home and the garden around it. "It's beautiful," he said softly. "All of it." A gentle silence lingered between them. "I never thanked you," he said at last, "for saving my life tonight. Thank you." The lantern light remained steady in her hands. "It's too late to inspect the slope properly," he added softly. "I'll have to come back tomorrow." After a pause, he looked at her again. "How did you hear me?" "Some cries," she replied gently, "are heard by those meant to hear them." He took a step down the path, then stopped and looked back. "If I come back, what should I bring you?" She smiled, the warm glow of the lantern resting on her face. "A small pot of red roses," she said softly. "Let them live." He rested among the blooms, the moonlight brushing his face. Quiet and still, the forest seemed to hold its breath around him, and for a moment, everything felt at peace. That morning, he visited the friend who had first alerted him to the survey, the cheerful garden and sunlit house welcoming him as their eyes met. He asked his friend to come along to inspect the cliff, and the friend agreed with a warm smile, ready to help. He pointed to the small red rose pot. "I'll take this, how much?" he asked, determined to give her the gift she had asked for, the kind grandmother who had saved his life. His friend smiled and handed it to him, but he bought it for money even though it was offered freely. He carried the parted red roses carefully, walking beside his friend along the sunlit forest path. Each step brought them closer to the cliff and the land he had vowed to protect. He waited in the garden, holding the parted roses, while his friend looked puzzled, both gazing toward the cottage. He paused near the slightly open cottage door, his friend beside him watching curiously. He entered the cottage, holding the roses, the companion observing quietly. He looked around the cottage, calling for the grandmother, a hint of surprise crossing his friend's face. He told his friend about the grandmother who had helped him the day before and showed him the parted rose he had brought for her. But his friend listened in disbelief. His friend looked at him seriously and told him the cottage had not been occupied for years. He refused to believe him and argued back, still holding the parted rose tightly in his hands. Suddenly, he raised his finger and pointed towards something across the room. He pointed at the framed photograph on the wall. This is the grandmother I was telling you about." His friend turned toward him, his palm lifted toward the photograph, and gently explained that she was the owner of the cottage and the land they were about to visit, and that she had passed away many years ago, a natural death. He slowly turned, and near the window, a lantern glowed softly beside fresh rose petals still shining with dew. She is here," he whispered. "Maybe outside." He stepped into the garden and looked around, searching for the grandmother. His friend followed close beside him. Suddenly, he spotted a small wooden grave marker among the wildflowers and slowly sank to his knees, the parted rose still held tightly in his hands. With tears in his eyes, he gently placed the parted rose beside the grave. He stood quietly in another corner of the garden, tears still in his eyes as his friend placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. In his heart, he remembered her words, "I have cared for this place longer than you can imagine, and I still do." It was never empty. As he had promised, he and his friend set out to protect the land that a kind soul had always cared for. He walked forward with quiet resolve, but when he turned back once more, she was there, watching over the land she had always loved.